Hello, and welcome to the pilot episode of the FloridaMan Podcast, your competitive 40k podcast that will be run by myself, Daniel Smith, the Chaos player. I have with me John Lennon.
Hey, guys.
And Jimmy Prescott.
Hello.
So, how's everyone doing tonight?
Hey, we're great, man. I'm just happy to be here. Jimmy?
Doing all right.
There we go.
Cool. All right, so Lennon, how about you take over and tell them what we're about?
Okay, guys. So we're here with Florida Man Podcast. Basically, our goal is to provide, mid entry level and high level competitive advice to players in the game. We are focusing on the competitive aspect of the game, but we don't want to do so at the exclusion of the hobby or about being a gentleman and a bro to your fellow gamers. So we're going to be posting up weekly episodes of our podcast, as well as occasional battle reports and tactics videos, kind of trying to help people who want to be competitive become competitive, and to help competitive players master their game and get to that upper level that they may be seeking.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I love recording podcasts, listening to podcasts. I'm really excited about battle reports because between the three of us, is there an army we don't own? Maybe. We can't probably
Grey
field...
Knights.
Yeah, no Grey Knights, and I don't know if we can field a full 2,000 points of just Sisters of Battle.
That's true. Other than that, though, I think between us we have just about every army, so we're going to be bringing out a lot of armies, and we also want to cover maybe the competitive armies that aren't seen as often. So something like Necrons, where you could definitely see it at a competitive level, but maybe you won't see it every week.
Yeah, like you see Knights is 10% of the field, and now we got Chaos Knights. Necrons, I think, were 2 to 4% of the field. So it's easy to know your opponent when it's Caladius Grav Tanks or Knights, but really we want you to know every opponent you might run into, because when you don't know, like running into Harlequin Vikes, if you've never fought Harlequin Vikes before,
It's going to be a tough game.
Exactly. So, but to backpedal just a little bit, we can give a little bit of 2 minutes of background on each other, or on ourselves, or however you want to do it.
Oh, for ourselves,
So,
I think.
of each other. So Jimmy over here.
Hey, so I'm starting this. Okay, so my name's Jimmy Prescott. Of the three of us, the newest player here. I started playing realistically the beginning of this season in 2019, doing RTTs and GTs and all that. Been traveling a lot and been playing Imperium literally the entire time. Started with Knights, only Knights, and then moved recently to the Caladius Grav Tank with, some Knights in there, one Knight specifically. So I've been having a fun time. It's been fairly successful, and other than that, from the Florida area, played some other games before 40k, but not really as seriously. So.
Okay. I'm John Lennon. Some of you guys may know my name. I pop into other people's podcasts a lot, but as the last competitive player without a podcast, I figured it was time. I'm a Gene Stealer Cult and Tyranid player by trade. I tend to focus on the bug-themed armies the most. I've done fairly well with them. I got a top 8 at BAO. I've won a couple GTs, major here and there. I'm always aiming for best in faction awards as well. That's something I take pride in. I'm currently just after ATC, where my team managed to get an undefeated second place. I'm going to take a small break from Gene Stealer Cult and probably play an Imperium list, which I think you guys will hear more about towards the end of the episode. But I love to play almost every army, and I like to keep up to date on every army, just because I like to do my homework and have a lot of game knowledge, because I find that that's what helps me succeed. So I'm just here to kind of try to share that and try to improve myself and everyone around me.
Yeah, and I'm Dan Smith, the resident Chaos player that also plays every other army in the game. I've started in 6th edition, started getting competitive in 7th edition, then won my first GT here in 8th edition, which I will talk about way too much, and Lennon will comment about it a lot. So I actually started this season playing Tau. They don't have a psychic phase, so they're not my style. Went back to Chaos, started having success with them, because between the 16 million books out, Chaos is definitely the strongest faction in the game right now. So with a little bit of luck, a little bit of skill, and an awesome book, or series of books, then you can pretty much win whatever. So I've been having a lot of fun with that, but it's kind of stale. They've gotten to about 3 variant lists, except for the one we'll talk about later.
Except for one.
But yeah, so Chaos, you're playing Plaguebearer Horde, you're playing Plaguebearers with Lord Discordance, or you're playing Plaguebearers with like a Chaos Knight, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's only so many games you can play with Plague Bearers before you're ready to do something else, like play with the other Green Horde and Orcs.
With any luck, Games Workshop is going to take care of that Plague Bearer problem for you, so...
Oh, no.
Oh, they already did. They released a Chaos Knight that ignores modifiers to hit. So Plague Bearers aren't that good, right?
I think you'll still be seeing them quite a bit.
And Flamers exist. Like,
we'll see.
Plague Bearers aren't that good.
Yeah, right.
Anyways, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I could talk about myself forever because I am awesome.
Absolutely.
But that's not what this is about. That's going to be the other podcast, the All About Dan show.
Yes, it has one listener, and it's also Dan.
It is.
Looking forward to that one. I'll also watch 2
There we go.
listeners.
Oh, okay.
2 listeners.
There we go.
You guys are the same
Cool.
person, honestly.
Basically.
Kind of. My beard's better.
I'm apathetic.
There we go.
All right. Anyways, so that's enough. Just
it's enough about us.
Yeah. So let's dive in. Just start smacking you with some competitive knowledge. And I'm gonna just talk a lot because that's what I'm good at.
That's what we're here for.
Exactly. So basically, something I've been running into a lot is talking to people about lists. Why do lists win? How do they win? What is your goal in writing a list? So, like for me personally, my target number, I want to score 30 points. If you score 30 points, you're going to win the game. Like, it's something around players who have scored 30 points in a game have over a 99% win rate right now.
Yeah. We actually went to Peter from 40k Stat Center to pull this number to talk about it. If you score 30 points in a game, you have a 5,733 wins, 46 losses, and 8 draws. So if you look at those numbers, if you can get those 30 points in a game, you are almost guaranteed to win the game. So 30 points is kind of a target where if you hit that, then you're pretty much safe. You're home free, you can move on to your next round. Some way to approach the game is to not just look at beating your opponent, but to look at beating the game by just getting that number, because a lot of these points don't require interaction with your opponent. Like obviously you have to kill their stuff and that helps, but if you can get the hold and the hold more and the bonus every single turn, that's 15 points on primary. At that point, you only need to kill 3 things and max some secondaries, all of which could be focused on holding terrain, and you could get 30 points. You could get 30 points in a game and only kill 3 guardsman squads.
Yeah. You can actually, I believe it's 36 points without killing a single model.
Really?
Because you can get...
How are you going to get killed or kill more?
Well, you get hold more, bonus. Sorry, it's 30 points.
Yeah, 30.
Yeah, if you kill exactly 6 units, it's 36. 1 unit a turn.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Because, and again, you score more points. So many people, to backtrack, so many people want to build Alpha Strike armies. They want to build a high damage output. A really popular build, I guess, for Admech is all the Plasma Destroyers.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's great, except all they're doing is killing stuff and maybe sitting on a home objective. Mm-hmm. So at best, they're scoring you 2 points, maybe 3 points a turn.
Yeah.
You can have a 65-point unit of Alpha Legion Chaos Marines sitting on 2 objectives, scoring you hold more, and potentially contributing to a bonus, contributing to recon, getting you engineers. You can have a 65-point squad score 3 to 5 points, and the 500-point Plasma Destroyers are getting the same as a 65-point squad. So the efficiency of your list isn't always about how well do you kill your opponent. It actually should be more how well do you control the board, how well do you score your hold more bonus, and secondaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and ultimately the winner is obviously determined by the mission. So if you're going to go into the game and say, I'm going to kill my opponent and let the mission take care of itself, oftentimes that'll work, but to me, what I see in tournaments, since I go to a few of them, that always seems to be the hallmark of an and one list, where you're 2-1 at an RTT, 4-1 at a GT, maybe 5-1 at a major. If you're only trying to outplay your opponent without playing to the mission as much, it seems very rare that you're going to go a 3-0, 5-0, 6-0 kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your input as the new player, Jimmy? How much have you looked into this and thought about the magic number?
So specifically talking about board control, that's something that we would see more of a focus on recently, right? Because a lot of the secondary objectives just changed to move in that direction. So where 40k was pretty recently a just kill everybody on the other side of the board type game, they added things like engineers, King of the Hill, things that are all about objective control. And now it's starting to move the focus. I think that's why Necrons have suddenly become better, where it was like, don't even look at this book.
Yeah.
They're so durable that putting a unit of Immortals in the back for engineers is a realistic option now. Like, them just surviving is their point.
And you're never going to kill Immortals with a Guardsman Mortar unit, right?
Yeah.
Or Wyvern.
Or, like the Knight Ironside shooty thing. Yeah. So, it's taken a recent shift.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are catching on to it more and more quickly, but there was probably a period, what I would say a period of a month or two, where people were still just trying to kill stuff, and that's why nobody was really understanding why Necrons were coming back all of a sudden, because the game changed very quickly at the change of the ITC secondaries.
And the other way you could look at that is that when ITC changed their secondaries, there was kind of in response to lists like, the old Eldar Ynnari Shining Spear list that was designed to minimize secondaries, where, you could make a list where your opponent wasn't scoring any secondary points. So the flip side was that they made a lot of secondaries that now you don't have to interact with your opponent for, meaning you can now build your list not to deprive your opponent of secondaries, but to max your own. So you could look at something like Brandon Grant's Imperial Guard Army, which has lots of guards when you've got your orders. You can start in your deployment zone. You can move turn 1 and very easily get recon turn 1. And then you've got enough guardsman units and chimeras and little fast units that you can send 2 things out into the table quarters, and that's a secondary that your opponent's going to struggle to deny you.
That's one of the reasons I love Def Coptas in the Orc Brigade style lists, where you just have a ton of bodies and a ton of units. Well, you can take 3 units of one Def Copta, and even if you have like a Dakajet or 2, and you sacrifice them turn 1, get in the lines, apply a little bit of pressure, get that hold more, get that recon early while you're getting the horde of boys moved up there, and then turns 2 and 3, you killed my Dakajets, I don't really care, because now you had to dedicate something into that unit, and now I have 90 boys who are now crossing the line and getting me recon and obsecking those objectives away from you to keep the hold more. They don't care if they give up kill more, because now they're able to even make plays into the bonus. They're going to max their secondaries because they're going to get recon, they're going to get probably engineers, and if your list gives up 1 secondary, that's it. They've got 12 points right there.
If you can max your secondaries, it doesn't matter and then your opponent can max theirs. At that point, you're looking at the primary again, and a list like Brandon Grant's or that Orc Horde that you mentioned that can consistently get those hold mores, those bonus points. Suddenly, it doesn't matter that you give up 800 Reaper points; they're still only scoring 4. If you're maxing your secondaries and you can beat them on the primaries, you're good to go.
Exactly, and that's where you get a lot of close scoring games that are decided by a point, or even like 30-30 ties. Which there have been 8. But essentially, if you understand that the role you're taking is to hold more, and your opponent understands that now they have to react and play the kill more, so they're going to play to hold, kill, and kill more, and you play hold more, and kill, you're both scoring 3 primary points a turn, and that's where the bonus comes into play so much. And the bonus is, there isn't a single bonus in the ITC that is centered around killing your opponent.
True.
Every single bonus has to do with holding objectives. So when you play the board control, you have a natural advantage to win these close games.
Yes.
Realistically, though, I would say mission 1, where you have 6 objectives and the goal is to hold 5 of them?
Hold or contest.
Hold or contest.
But, I mean, contesting, realistically, you're probably going to have to remove some and go second to even out those numbers. Number 1 is so difficult to get the bonus on.
It might be for
compared to the rest.
Compared to the rest, it might be for your your specific army.
It's not a horde.
And you have like 7 drops. So
and you have like 7
I got to get 7 units to 5 objectives.
Split them up.
As a Gene Circle player, though, where I've got so much from my army in Deep Strike, I was able to get, I played a game at ATC where I held the bonus more often than I got kill unit. And I lost that game, but it was a close game, and that was a team format event. A loss isn't necessarily a bad thing since it was by 3 points in a round that we outscored the opponent. But, sometimes getting onto 5 objectives is sacrificing units that are going to die anyway. Like, you could move a guard squad way up, get them onto an objective, and they were going to die no matter where they were. You might as well get them on this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the mission I always have the most trouble with is and I don't remember the numbers. I'm not as good as you guys.
Yeah.
But the one where there's 4 objectives and you have to hold all 4.
Yep.
Mission 4.
Nexus Control. I would actually agree. Nexus Control is the hardest.
That one, like, I've played where literally my Mortarion is in your lines and I have 60 Plague Bearers behind it, stringing to all 4 in a diamond formation. And, like, I think I played Carter Leach's Eldar in that mission and maybe got the bonus 1 or 2 turns. When I was doing really well. I crashed and burned 3 flyers by like turn 2. I took out most of his army, and I still just couldn't get that bonus because it's that hard to get.
Yeah, it is. It is that hard to get it. It's definitely interesting how like you kind of have to look at the mission sometimes to decide how you're going to play. Like I notice a lot of players don't necessarily pay attention to the bonus initially, where they kind of like might think about it turn 3 once they're already in a controlling state. Like, well, I'm already winning this game. Maybe I can see what bonus points I can get up my score a little bit. That's fine if you want to look at it then, but a lot of people don't even try to get it turn 1 or 2, and they don't play the missions differently to get that bonus point. Mm-hmm. So, kind of as an example list, the army I brought to the Bay Area Open was designed to get the bonus point because this was, I was going into the California meta. I was really afraid of those flyer lists, and I knew they were going to be getting their kill more, so I was thinking to myself, I'm going to need to write a list that's going to get hold more, and bonus. And that's how I'm going to keep up with these lists. I went 2-1 against Zelda that weekend, so I'll call it a victory. But what I ended up doing was I had 191 bodies in the list. I want to say about 170 of them were objective secured. So I had the bodies to flood the board, hold the objectives, run onto the objectives, and stay there just by weight of bodies, stay obsec on it, and just to outscore people and hold those bonuses for multiple turns. I actually did a track across 6 games. I played 35 turns. 1 game didn't go the full time, and I scored the bonus objective 22 times. So that was almost 2/3 of the time I was getting the bonus objective, often on turns 1 and 2, just by sending out fast-moving units to go grab an objective and hold it. And yes, they would die, but I was getting that bonus point, and I was already giving up kill more, so that was my way of keeping myself equal or ahead on the primary. Mm-hmm. Having an army designed to do that means if you want to get the bonus a lot, you need to have the ability to reposition yourself, either by being very fast, like a Kraken Tyrannid list, Cold Star Battle suits, being able to deep strike, having units like maybe Swooping Hawks, anything Gene's Thrower Cult, Demons, you've got your large deep strikeable Bloodletter units that can go somewhere, get a very reliable charge, and then be obsec on an objective. And then sometimes like you need a lot of characters. Like one unit that I think we could highlight is Diet Grek. He's the Kroot character from Blackstone Fortress that you can play with Tau. He's 20 points and he's a character that can deep strike. If you ask your tournament organizer ahead of the event what missions they're going to be playing, if you know that they're going to use the character one, for example at ATC, which was just a week ago, they had the character mission in there twice. So we knew that having a lot of characters would be beneficial because you can get that bonus game twice in the weekend. My list had 10 characters in it. I got that bonus a lot.
Yeah. I had, obviously, I ran the 3 Discordants, Mortarion, and a bunch of characters behind Plague Bearers. And I had a rough game, round 4 or 5, I forget, where I didn't max that bonus the entire game. I only got it for 4 turns. Mm-hmm. And the other game, I scored 38 points. Like,
mercy.
So, because I had built the list not specifically with that bonus in mind, but I say I built the list. I copied Austin Wingfield and made minor tweaks. But because we were playing that mission twice, through 12 turns, I scored the bonus 10 times. I was also able to, with a highly mobile army like that, and all those missions had 4 more objectives. Ground control, which a lot of people don't like as a secondary, because it's so all or nothing at the end of the game, became very attainable because we knew we were going to have 4 more objectives every single round. You could always have the opportunity to bonus that. So when you have a highly mobile army, like Lennon was talking about, you have reserve manipulation potential, you have hordes of obsec bodies, you can really set yourself up for the late game. And one of the 2 games I lost at ATC, I had played too hard into the early game, and my opponent managed to sneak in and score 10 points on the last 2 turns to beat me by 8.
Ooh.
Wow. Yeah. I held the solid lead. I played, and that was the character mission.
Yep.
I had played to get the bonus early, and I didn't apply enough pressure with my list. And so I left my opponent with just enough firepower. He was able to push through the Plague Bears, hop the screen. He killed the Contorted Epitome. Like, a couple things went bad that I potentially could have corrected. I lost the game as much as he won it. But he put himself into that position to make the late game plays because he knew I had the early game presence.
Yeah.
So it was a perfect storm that led to me losing a game that I had led again for the first four turns.
Yeah. That's a really good gap to close, getting 10 points those last 2 turns. That hurts. But, some armies can set yourself up to do that. Like, you might look at the Triple Caladius list. That's probably not a list that's going to try to get, 5 out of 6 objectives early on. But that can help you rack up the score early. So another thing is you might try to keep your opponent's primary down, knowing you can catch up later if you're trying to outkill them. But if you're going to play one of those lists that has kind of like a sit back and shoot, you want to be able to get out there later on because, if you get your kill more and suddenly they're out of units to kill and they're just behind a wall, you need to be able to go out there and get the hold more so that you're still winning the primary, even if neither of you are now killing something, as kind of happens late game. Mm-hmm. So I would say the 2 lists that are probably strongest of that are the Caladius list, and I would say Tau with Riptides. Tau in general, you don't think of as an early board control army, and a couple people can play that with the drone wall, but more often than not, I think that they're moving up slowly, using their firepower to wear you down, and then towards that late game, those small drone units are splitting off in every direction, and that's where you're getting your Holdmores on turns 4, 5, and 6, perhaps.
Yeah, and the theory of that the triple Riptide list functions actually very similar to the Lord Discordance, even though it plays completely different. And that is, your important units survive and do enough damage to remove your opponent's high damage assets, and then once those are gone, in the Disco Rush, you have Plague Bearers. In the Tau list, you still have Riptides on a 3 of Invulnerable. Mm-hmm. So, all their shield drones, except maybe a couple straggling units holding objectives in the back, most of their shield drones are gone, so they don't have to castle anymore. So they can split those Riptides off into different squads or different areas of the board, get the recon, get the hold more, and they still have consistent damage output. Yeah. The Disco Rush list functions very similar. You've dealt with my Lord Discordance, but hopefully between them and Mortarion, they killed your Crass Crusader, they killed your Caladius Grav Tanks, and now I'm just covered the board. I have my smites, and I have whatever little things I have left to try to keep getting kill one.
Or your Riptides and your Commanders.
Yeah, and the Riptides and Commanders are going to get kill one every turn that game, unless you don't have anything for them to kill. So at that point, you go from playing an aggressive kill more style game to I'm going to reel back and play hold more and just get kill one, and you transition and always score at least 3 primary points every turn.
Yeah, and honestly, and as long as you can keep scoring those 3 primary points, it's going to be very hard for your opponent to overcome a lead if you have one. So, if you can just kind of keep some kind of scoring element in your list, you want to have, those small units, something that can go score you objectives, having a tough horde like Plague Bears that are maybe getting ignored in favor of Mortarion and Disco Lords. If you have something to that effect, something that can kind of keep your scoring going through the late game, Gene Storkel, they use Aberrants for that because they're the most durable unit we have. Anything like that is really going to help your ability to play the mission.
I would just like to say that I hate Aberrants. I fought them for the first time at ATC.
I'm sure the Aberrants hated you in your Caladius Grav Tanks.
Yeah, well, specifically the Caladius Grav Tanks, I couldn't get through them with my D3 damage.
Because he only rolled 1s and 2s.
Yeah, well, even then, right 3s become 2s, and then the guy has 2 5-up Feel No Pains. One's got to save the thing anyway, so...
I definitely feel bad for you that the 5-up armor units just survived your Caladius Grav Tanks. I feel for you.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. No, even all 3 shooting into a unit of 10 couldn't kill him.
I don't think they should statistically. I don't think that's bad dice. I think that's actually how it's supposed to go.
It just feels...
feels bad, man.
It does feel bad. It's very durable. That's all I was going to say. Very durable.
You found the 1 unit in the game that's statistically durable against the Caladius.
Yes.
The 1 unit.
And they have a 4 toughness.
20 wounds with only a 5-up Feel No Pain. Even if it's all damage 1, that's still...
30 wounds you need to inflict.
Yeah, 24 plus 18 is 42 shots, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s.
Rerolling everything.
Rerolling everything.
Maybe you should kill them.
On average, all 3 should kill 1 squad of Aberrants.
Well, I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah. I'm sure you are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have anything you liked about that 30-minute or the 30-point segment? Anything that you feel like your list does specifically to try to get to that threshold, or maybe something you want to design in the future that does it?
I would like to play the Siegler Tau list.
You think so? I mean, it does get its points. Like early on, I guess the Siegler Tau list, to kind of give some more detail, would be like 3 Riptides, 2 or 3 commanders with cyclic ion blasters, and then a wall of maybe 40 drones, sometimes more if he's feeling spicy. I mean, that list does get a very consistent kill and hold early on, so it gets 2 primary points a turn because you're usually getting kill more on all its 2-man drone units. But it's worth noting that if he goes second to all of those drone units, and drones are fast, who knew? He can go out and get objectives. He can actually get that hold more pretty frustratingly because he can shoot you off of whatever you're on.
Yeah.
So that's an easy way to get 3 primary points a turn if he's going second. And if not, by the end, he gets maybe 2 points on the first 3 turns. And then we kind of measured how it scores the hold more late in the game rather than early on.
Yep.
You could kind of look at that as getting 2 points the first 3 turns and then getting 4 points for the last 3 turns. Again, you're looking at 18 total primary points. You max your secondaries, and boom, you're at 30 points. And 99% of the time, that's enough for a win.
And I feel that way about the Siegler Tau list only because it seems super versatile. Basically, because of Savior Protocols, what you're playing on the first turn is what you're still going to have as far as firepower in the fifth turn.
Yeah.
So the lists that I play with, the 4 knights and 2 Helverins, or the knight, 2 commanders, and the grav tanks, on the other side of the table, if they have a good answer for tanks, it can make that difference right away, especially with the Pure Knights list. The Caladius, a little better. But with the Pure Knights list, if they have an answer, like if there's a Taunar over there, you're going to lose 3 knights in 1 turn and the game's over.
Yes.
But with a Tau list like that, it's like, what objectives do I need? You're going to have the tools to do it most of the time. And that's what it feels like at any point in the game you can make a decision rather than being at the mercy of firepower.
Yeah. And I think that'd be the difference between like a true competitive list and a gatekeeper list, where you're looking at the lists that aren't necessarily the overwhelming firepower, but in almost any situation can play the mission. So I think that Tau are a top-tier army now. I think they've moved well past, being a noob stomper, being a gatekeeper army. They're no longer an army that, you're just kind of seeing in the top tables, but then losing and dropping in middle tables and kind of fluctuating back and forth, like a gatekeeper army. I think as a top-tier army, you have that ability to score the points no matter what your opponent's doing. I really think that's the mark of... And when I see a player with that list, I become more afraid because I know that they're a good player if they're operating this. That's the kind of list that I look at. I'm like, okay, a good player is behind this. They're going to try to score points on me. How am I going to stop them from playing their game? We're no longer playing... It's no longer just him trying to kill me, me trying to kill him. It's he's doing his own thing, and now I have to get in the middle of it and stop it. That's a very different game to play.
Yep. I do need to jump in real fast because you upset a lot of Tau players. The Siegler list also has the Pathfinders, and more importantly, the Pathfinder drones.
That's true.
That is a huge point of emphasis from our resident Tau players. I just wanted to make sure that it's made very clear that those are in the list.
Oh, they're very strong, certainly, but broad strokes.
Yeah. Anyways, so that was really all I wanted to say on that. ATC is a little bit of a different creature, but just an example that I enjoyed. Me and Will Taylor wrote what we called the 30-point Tau list, basically operating on similar fundamentals to the Siegler list. But we put in like stealth teams, we had ghost keels, we had units that you don't normally see Tau players bring because they're not necessarily very offensive and they're not necessarily really even considered that good. But when you look at a stealth team, it's like 84 points or whatever for 6 wounds on a 3-up save that's -1 to hit. Stick them in cover, they're now 2-up save. They're great engineers. You have 2 of them. If you don't need engineers because the terrain's not favorable or whatever, they can deploy offensively and put pressure to get recon and to get hold more. Ghost kills function similarly. They can be applied, just deployed forward to get recon and hold more early on. And essentially, now I have these throwaway units I don't really want to target, but if I don't target, they're going to be scoring like 2 to 3 points a turn because they're getting hold more, recon, whatever. So it puts your opponent in that weird position where they don't even get to start on the shield drones turn 1 because they're having to deal with these -1 and -2 to hit units that are going to be scoring a ton of points. So And it doesn't work in every matchup. That's why we wanted it for ATC specifically, because we could keep them in matchups where it does its thing. But through 6 games, that list averaged over 28 points per game. Win or loss, it didn't matter. It was getting 28 points a game.
Almost a 30-point towel list. Almost. It's close.
Okay,
the 28-point towel list.
So from design to application, I can deal with a 2-point variance.
Yeah, that's pretty close. We'll give you some credit there.
So, but that's just when we started coming up with that list and seeing the data of how do you win this game, and that's by scoring as close to 30 points as you can, ideally hitting 30 and getting that 99% win rate. So in ATC, if you win 4 games, you move on. Like, you've done your job.
Yeah.
And if you're scoring 30 points and your opponent scored 20, that's a 10-point differential in your favor. If you score 30 points and your opponent scores max points, that's still only a 12-point differential. So even if you get maxed out, you're not giving up that much. And if you actually do well and get into a good matchup, then you get a comfortable differential. So it's the theory of the list more than the list itself that I like, but that style of list and that style of play, I think you're going to see keeps becoming more and more popular. And like Lennon said, when you can pilot a list like that well, that means you're a good player, essentially. You're in a position to win any game you go into, regardless of your opponent.
Yeah, and that's really, that's the goal, right? And then if you kind of try to adopt that playstyle, it does open up units that you might not normally see. It's like a standard towel list usually doesn't have stealth suits, but maybe if you're just trying to get to X points level and you can get 4 points out of engineers by throwing them in the backfield and knowing that, again, a wyvern is never going to kill stealth suits. Yeah. It's just you hit on 5s, you wound on 4s, they have a 2-up save and cover. It's going to take way too long.
And if you kill one, there's a second squad.
And there's a second squad. Yeah, if you get lucky somehow.
And so in my list, less than 10% of my list now, because it's 168 points, has been dedicated to scoring me usually 8 points per game.
Yeah.
Because 10 points per game, which is a third of my whole win condition. Because I'm getting 4 from secondaries and I'm getting 6 points from hold 1. So if 10% of my list gets me 30% of my points, I'm ahead and I'm doing incredibly well.
Yeah, but I think some other units that maybe could get brought up as being useful for this play style. Witches, you don't think of witches as a good unit because point for point, their damage output is not that great. They're not durable at all. Only Shaw Naden can win with them. But, if you can get them into a combat situation where they're tying up your units, stopping your opponent from advancing past them, maybe they're obsec sitting on an objective wrapped around a guard squad that they outnumber because they're killing a few a turn, that's a unit that's getting you a few points and then keeping your other assets alive, preventing your opponent maybe from getting a kill more. It may just be pushing you over to that point limit. Similarly, Custody Guard, just the 3-man squad or a 3-man squad of Bulgrin, those are cheap, relatively, engineer units that you can sit on an objective and they will get you points.
Yep.
Because again, any mortar-proof unit that you can put behind a ruin and just call an engineer that no one wants to charge, that's actually super valuable. I honestly, I low-key kind of want to take like one mutilator, make it an engineer, and put it in the backfield. It's like, well, you're not going to shoot it. And do you actually want to come charge the mutilator?
Yeah.
Like, no one thinks about it because they move 4 inches a turn, but they're not that bad in combat. They're not that good either, I'm not going to lie.
If I'm doing a chaos-specific engineer...
It's probably Plague Bearers, I'm sorry. But, maybe one day. Nurglings?
Rubric Marines.
Oh.
Because...
Going all Natalie on us.
You get... whatever. Yeah. Some loser. Sorry.
1-2 majors. Other than that, though, yeah.
Exactly.
So he's a loser at the rest of the events.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the +1 armor against damage 1 or whatever. I haven't used them forever. But also getting your defensive psychic power built into the unit. You can make yourself -1 to hit. You can cast like
the +1 invuln power.
Yeah, +1 invuln power. You can even because you're not scoring engineers turn 1. You can use Bolter Drill if they have, Gene Stealer Call. Well, Gene Stealer doesn't get aggressive turn 1. But if you're fighting an army that gets aggressive turn 1, they have a little bit of teeth. If you have Zangors in the list, which I personally kind of like a battalion of 2 units of 5 Rubrics and a squad of probably 15 Zangors, not a ton.
Like orcs, but worse.
Yeah, except now I can have my Rubrics cast -1 to hit, +1 invul, and then send them on their way and let them go smack things.
Yeah, I hope you make the charge.
I never do. That's why I don't like Zangors.
No one ever does.
But you can get mileage out of your engineer squad's turn 1,
Yeah.
and then the rest of the game they're scoring you a ton of points.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That overall was the point. The application, I hate Zangors and they suck, but
Rubric Marines and similar units that you don't normally look at can still get you some points, and if you're trying to just outscore your opponent rather than outkill them, they have a lot of value.
Exactly. And you win the game by scoring more points, not by killing more models.
Sure. And then, as long as we're talking about unconventional lists, I think we're ready for a 5-minute meta.
Let's dive in, because I kind of like this. I know you love this.
I love this.
Jimmy, do you care at all?
About the list?
Yeah.
The 5-minute meta? Okay.
I care about that list.
All right, well, I'm ready to explain
Okay.
it. So,
all right, here we go.
5-minute meta is the segment we're going to do every episode, where basically we're going to pick one list from the past weekend that did well at a tournament. We're looking at, top 3, maybe top 8 if you're talking like an LVO size event. A list that is unconventional, and we're going to kind of break it down and say, what are we looking at here? So what we're going to look at today is Kieran Howard's list from WinterCon. WinterCon's in Australia, and yes, the Aussies have a crazy meta, but this actually went 5-0, and that's not an accident. You don't accidentally go 5-0. So his list... I
did once.
Well, one time. So his list, if you look at it once, is a pile of crap. And if you look at it twice, there's some hidden genius in there that I actually respect a lot. So to break down the list, we're looking at a Supreme Command of Slaanesh Demons. You're looking at 3 Keeper of Secrets, Shalaxi Hellbane, and the Contorted Epitome. Then you're looking at a mixed Chaos Space Marine detachment. You have a Jump Hack Thunderhammer Alpha Legion Lord with who's Khorne, and then you have 2 of the Death Guard Blightspawn, the Flamer guys, right?
Yeah, Foul Blightspawn.
And then you have the cheap the Tallyman, who's the cheap little Death Guard elite who kind of gives you a little bit of CP regen. Finally, you have another Supreme Command, again Alpha Legion, of 3 Disco Lords. So if you look at this, it's all characters.
It's literally 3 Supreme Commands.
No, it's a Vanguard of the.
Is that a Vanguard?
It's a Vanguard.
Okay,
but still,
they're characters, but they're elite characters.
You're looking at a 12 model,
right.
a 12 model army with 12 characters that went 5-0, and all of these units, you look at them and they're things that get shot to death. Like no one really took the Keeper of Secrets, but if you actually break it down, it's got a -1 to hit in combat. Slaanesh has a -1 to hit spell.
Yep.
And then it has a Witstealer sword, which if you wound something in melee, makes it -1 to hit. And almost all of this can advance and charge. What you're looking at is a bunch of monsters that turn 1 all advance and forward. And maybe they charge, maybe they don't. Depends on how good their advance rolls go. Someone's probably rolling a 6 on advance. That one's going like 20 inches, and suddenly, ooh, this is actually really fast. You might be getting turn 1 charges. But your opponent basically has 1 turn to try to kill all of this. And if they don't, you're hitting them in combat the next turn, because you can take a relic to make that Chaos Lord advance and charge. You can make the Disco Lords advance and charge if they're near the Keepers of Secrets.
Which they should be, because they have 12-inch plus an advance. It's all large
very
bases.
Fast. You can keep them close to each other.
Even if you're toe on line and one out advances the other, you're still going to be in aura range because your bases are so big.
Yeah.
So you have the Locust for advancing and charging everything.
And you've got the Contorted Epitome,
which moves 12 inches on its own, and it's fast, just as fast.
It's just as fast, and once you get them in combat, that Contorted Epitome is going to stop people from falling back. Slaanesh has a power that's a 12-inch aura of -1 leadership, so you can get something in combat. You can take a leadership 7 guardsman squad, take them down to leadership 6. Suddenly, they're just not going to make that. They're not going to fall back. And you've got all these units that are Slaanesh. They always fight first in combat for being the Slaanesh demons. You've got your Foul Blightspawn as a little bit of anti-flyer. And a little trick here is that the Foul Blightspawn, or Foetid Blightspawn, whatever they are, they have an aura of if an enemy unit charges within 7 inches of them, they lose their charge bonus. And you think, oh, that's fine, I'll just select them to fight first anyway. Well, hold on, all those Slaanesh demons fight first. So if you can get your Keepers of Secrets into combat near your Blightspawn, you're fighting first in combat, you have a psychic power to fight in your psychic phase, you're -1 to hit in melee, you can make someone -1 to hit you. If you get your discos near a vehicle, they're -1, you could... For example, this weekend he beat a triple knight list, and I'm sure you're all thinking that a Castellan and a Crashed Crusader are going to just dunk on all of these vehicles. If he gets in combat, they're not killing him in melee. Because you can make a knight -4 to hit if you pass a psychic power and have a couple characters nearby. They're not getting a charge bonus to fight first, so you're fighting first, you hit them with your Witstealer sword. Even if you don't kill them, they're hitting you on 6, and they're just not going to win that war of attrition.
Well, and a couple things of note. The Forbidden Gem against Knights is amazing.
Of course.
Because you shut one down. The Castellan only hits on 4s in combat, so Lord Discordant makes it 5s, and then without doing a single wound, your Keeper of Secrets are now on 6s.
On 6s, yeah.
So if you deal a single wound, it literally can't hurt you. Or if you hit it with the Slanesh Psychic Power.
Yeah.
And go through the line. So you kill the Gallant first, you tag the others, the game is literally over.
Yeah.
Another thing to keep in mind, two items.
Mm-hmm.
One, we've got 5 Psychers in the list.
So 5 smites.
So 5 smites.
Because they cast 10 powers total.
And you also have the ability to make the enemy unit fight last.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exclusive to the charge. It's also if you have a similar ability that lets you fight first. Yeah. So even in a mirror match, if they don't have the Blight Spawn, then your Slanesh swings before theirs. There's no alternating here.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's just another little key, because I know if you look at this list, you're going to be, well, those 2 Nurgle characters are literally like cool. They have a 7-inch strength,
it's like
weird
7-inch flamer,
and it's a weird strength. It's AP3 damage 3. Like, that's really good, but that's not what they're there for.
Yep, I think everyone looks at them and they see them as an anti-flyer answer, which they're still good at. I think everyone forgets about that charge debuff, which combined with he always fights first is surprisingly brutal. And then he's got that Alpha Legion Lord in there with the Thunderhammer. That guy's a suicide character, because the Alpha Legion Warlord trait means that if he dies, you immediately pick another Alpha Legion character to be your Warlord. That's a Disco Lord. So whichever Disco Lord is alive and is making it into combat, you're now giving it something like reroll the wound against the Astartes, reroll 1s to wounded general, +1 attack, 6 of Feel No Pain. Anything of that nature, the one that you're getting in is the one that's getting the buffs now. Because that Thunderhammer Lord can just go and hit something and die like a Blood Angel. Yeah. But then you start passing the buffs around to whoever's alive. I think the list thrives off of people being afraid of the Discos and shooting them. Because they're not super durable, but they're tough enough that you're not going to kill Discos and have firepower left over most of the time. And that means that you're getting a turn of being ignored with the Slanesh Demons. Suddenly you're all in combat, no one's falling back, you're always fighting first, you're -2, -3 to hit, and suddenly you've just won the game.
Exactly. Like, if you've got... Are they 16 wounds apiece, 14 wounds? I don't remember
think they're
exactly.
14 wounds, toughness 7, 5 up invul, and you can give them a 6 up Feel No Pain.
Yeah.
And then they have a Living Whip, which is a 6-inch range gun. It's a gun, it's a whip. Mm-hmm. But you can shoot it in combat. You can shoot it if you're in combat, so it's better than a pistol because you don't have to be in combat to shoot them. So this army gets in combat, doesn't let you fall back, and is just better than you at it. Yep. And it gets into combat way faster than anyone would anticipate because there's no wings in this army. That would mean that all our flyers might be disadvantaged, but you know, you've got Pile-In, Tricks, Heroic Intervention. You might be able to get some down.
And if you're fast enough, so 14-inch move, on average you go like 17 inches with your advance.
Yeah.
So turn 2, you've moved 34 inches across the table.
Mm-hmm. You can go under the flyers and hit things.
And you go under the flyers and hit things. And suddenly you won because you boots them. Because after they've killed the Lord Discordance... which I don't know if he had Bale Flamers, but that's actually a lot of really good Flamers if he did.
That's true, yeah.
But if you can, if you lose the Lord Discordance, you still have close to 60 wounds of 5 up invul, toughness 7 that you have to deal with. And it's hard to deal 60 wounds to something that's toughness 7. Like, a lot of armies can't do that in one turn, and if they deal with Disco's turn 1 and can't deal with the Keeper of Secrets until the end of turn 3, turn 4, well, most Eldar Flyers are going to be tabled at that point.
Yeah. Well,
or bootsed, rather.
We might have to rename 5-minute meta there. It might have been close to 10 or 15 there, guys. Does this inspire you to start anything new with your chaos?
It'd be so expensive.
That would be so expensive, but
I
fine.
just love Keeper of Secrets, so
I know.
It makes me happy that they're involved.
Because this army is so beautiful, I would love to.
Yeah.
Because I would like to stay married, I can't.
Well, there you go. So I don't have this problem.
So you're going to do it. You're going to do it instead.
I'm not a chaos player.
Do it. You're a meta player.
Oh, well, I think I'm actually going Imperium next. I mean, it's a nice break. I like chaos. Chaos is strong, but I feel like everyone's bringing chaos right now. And so I've decided to go with the totally under the radar meta choice of 3 Caladius Graph Tanks.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's seen that before.
No, that's super unique.
Yeah,
what is a Caladius tank?
What is
explain it to me.
So I think what I'm doing at next, now that we're after ATC, this is more of a break from Gene's Third Cult. It's not the end. I want to go back to Gene's Third Cult probably in a month or two, but just a very different army to make me change my playstyle for a month or two. I think I'm going to go with... I haven't really decided exactly what I'm going to do, but I've got my 3 Caladius, that I'm painting right now. I've got a Knight Crusader that I just finished magnetizing. And then I've got my tank commanders, but I'm thinking of actually dropping that Knight and maybe putting some guard squads in Chimeras. Maybe adding some Assassins or some Bulgrin. I kind of want a little bit of a forward presence more so than just, hi, I'm shooting you to death, and, turn 4, 5, 6, I'll get those points. But I kind of want to be forward turn 1, and I actually like Chimeras as like you don't want to shoot them because there's a Caladius in the list, but they are getting close and they do have heavy flamers. At some point, you might actually have to shoot them before the Caladius because they're just going to kill your infantry otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see some play there. I personally like Catachan infantry because they're Catachan infantry.
Of course.
I think
inside.
That's true. That's very true. I'm not sure how that would work with like combining squads and stuff, but
It would work.
Yeah, I guess.
Just get out of the Chimera and then combine squads.
True.
So I'm sure that your execution would be much better, but I did try before my current version of the Caladius list to have more infantry. I had 3 units of tactical marines and a Blood Angels squad with
they were scouts, not tac marines.
Oh,
right.
Scouts. Oh,
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so they would post forward. I would use them to screen in some cases, but most of the time try to ensure that I would get recon early and to take objectives that would be midfield in a way that made them fight those guys instead of the Caladius tanks. But what I would find is that all of that stuff would be ignored. They take out 1 to 2 Caladius, and then I just had no firepower. Left. Yeah, so I couldn't remove things that I needed to, even infantry, effectively.
Well, I think what we stumbled in was kind of why Mortarion's in the Lord Discordant list.
Yeah, you need that one big thing because firepower. Yeah,
like you shoot my Caladius, you're not killing the Crash Crusader.
The Knight is just to scare people. And they shoot it right away, but he's the least of your threats.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So.
But if you ignore a Knight that has 24 wounds, is toughness 8.
He'll do work.
Like it just kind of walks up shooting, going like beep boop, I'm going to kill you, and then it starts dancing on your face, and now you have to deal with it. So. And Mortarion is the same way. Like, you kill my Lord Discordance, while Mortarion can potentially just take this game over and end the game. Crass Crusader isn't as good as Mortarion at that, but it's also a lot more, like, it has better longevity just with...
It doesn't require psychic powers. It's more self-sufficient. If you've got command points, you don't need any characters nearby.
Exactly.
So on that vein of thought, I actually won a game at ATC because the other player played his rules wrong. I didn't know until afterward, but it said that... Because I was playing my Knight as my Warlord.
Yes.
And they used the mind control power, but the power specifically says except
Can't
the Warlord.
Target the Warlord. Oh,
but,
Tzeentch. Trees of Tzeentch.
Right, that's it. So he hit my Knight, who was just all up in his guts. And he was just outside of an inch of the guy, and then he took him over, and he made him shoot 2 Caladius. Fortunately, he also ended up whiffing, but at that point, because of the Knight's position, he couldn't do anything. For the whole phase.
Because it was his model.
And then at the beginning of my turn, suddenly he's mine again in the middle of your entire army. So he just did what he wanted. And if he would have killed him,
at the end.
He never died, actually. He made it through the rest of the game because I absolutely clipped everything that he could do that turn. Because he had what was basically very light infantry screen of Plague Bearers, but he had 1 and then Deep Struck another, and I couldn't get through him quickly enough.
Got it.
That Knight was in place to basically hit whatever HQ he wanted. So he was just stomping, shooting, flaming everybody around him and took out half the army.
If you leave a Knight alone, it can get ugly.
Yeah. So he was like, oh man, I took your Knight. I could take out your Caladius. And I'm like, oh no. And it worked out. Yeah,
it worked out well, yeah.
I like it.
And I found out later he couldn't do it, but
we also
his mistake. Yeah, I mean, you can't know every power that your opponent casts.
That's true.
We found out your Knight wasn't supposed to be the Warlord either.
Yeah.
So because it was an auxiliary, but it actually cost Jimmy more CP because of it. Because now he had to spend all the CP on the tank commander detachment.
Got it.
And buying all the relics and stuff.
It was 1 CP more.
It cost
in the
1
end.
more CP to have the wrong Warlord.
Yeah.
So that actually.
So you take a penalty for it.
It was the right thing for the wrong reasons entirely, but that should have actually still played out that way.
Yeah, because he could have taken it as a character.
Yeah, I guess it just matters for old school, but who cares? Who takes old school?
I did and lost.
So what are you thinking after ATC? You talked about your Knights, your Caladius. What do you think's next?
So for the next event, the GT, we're going to Super Secret, which maybe we shouldn't tell you about because it's a secret. But There, I'm going to be playing Imperium again, most likely, just because of the painting requirement.
Yeah.
Everything else that I want to play, I own, but none of it's painted, or not quickly enough. And specifically, I have Chaos now, which I just picked up from one of our other local members, Dan Monsalve. And I need to paint just a few things, but Chaos seems a little too tricky to try to figure out in the week and a half that we have.
Yeah, you might want to practice that before you jump into it.
Yeah.
So maybe Imperium for the Super Secret GT next week?
Right. And then after that, I'm going for either Tau, which I only need 2 more Kaiju Fireblades, or Chaos. The reason I'm having trouble choosing is because Tau seems like a safe bet, because it's been the way it is for a while.
Hasn't changed.
Yeah, so like the next nerf isn't as likely to backhand it as hard. Chaos, anything's up to play. Like if I've got Plague Bearers, they could get wiped out. Disco Lords, they could get wiped out. Like Games Workshop does not balance. They just smash with their nerf hammer.
Yeah, no, I think Tau is strong, but probably not in danger of being nerfed. So maybe that'd be a safe thing to play against until you see that September FAQ.
Right.
What about you, Smith?
I would actually, to go back to that, I would argue for you specifically, you actually should play Chaos right now, because Tau plays similar to the Imperium in the sense that you are shooting more than anything else.
Yeah.
You're not...
The list he was running, for sure.
Melee, for your style list specifically. Melee exists, you'll use it some. You don't use much Psychic, Tau won't use any Psychic. Yeah. So those lists will function similar enough. You'll probably do better with Tau than you would with Chaos. But Chaos can just teach you a lot more, because a big part of Chaos, obviously the Psychic phase is huge, and understanding a Chaos Psychic phase is its own game.
Yeah.
But more so understanding how to use non-combat in the combat phase to gain an advantage. And that's something we'll probably talk about next week.
Yeah.
But that, to me, is... how you win with Chaos isn't about doing damage. It isn't about the Psychic phase. It's about manipulating your consolidation and pile in to get objectives, to get where you need to go, to tag the right things. And so you would be able to learn, both as a Chaos player and fighting against Chaos players, how to play and counterplay that. So I would, and I'm biased to Chaos, but I would vote that you go Chaos, even with the potential for the nerf, because I think it'll make you a better player long term.
Yeah. And there's less to paint of what I own.
Ooh, less painting is also definitely the way to go.
All Tau. The whole thing needs to be painted. So
that's not too bad.
That's going to be a little while.
Okay.
But coming back to me, after Super Secret, I'm going to play Chaos because it's painted. I haven't decided which list I want to run, because I have Disco Rush, I have a modified version of Gym Vessels, Horde.
Yep.
I could run my peak list, depending on terrain. That's potentially really good if the terrain's good.
Yep.
I can't run the Derrideos yet, and I guess we're not using the Chaos Knight rulebook.
Chaos Knights won't be used for that.
But my Chaos Knights are painted up. I'm pretty much primed and ready to play anything. I even wrote a Chaos list with Magnus Mortarion and like 90 Plague Bearers, because sometimes it's fun to play bad things. So, anyways, I'll be playing some version of Chaos at Super Secret, but after that, I have Orcs that will never be finished painting, or being painted. I have Necrons that I can finish painting, but like our meta, I think, is just too strong to take Necrons and expect to win the event. And that's like, why go if you're not going to win the event, or not bring the fun.
But you want to have a chance.
I want to have the opportunity to be in a position to win the GT with an army that I am skilled with and that has the right amount of layers. Necrons don't have enough layers for me personally.
Okay.
So I got Orcs, Necrons. My Tau is fully painted, but I don't really feel like playing them right now. I'm just now acquiring an Eldar Flyer army, because of course I am. I do need to get some Nightwings, because Carter Leach and Dan Monsell both hate them and think they're terrible. So now
that's a good reason in itself.
I have a personal goal of getting those Nightwings and outperforming them both at a GT. Like, that is a personal goal of mine.
You got to do it quickly, because surely they're going to get actually nerfed.
And I have until September to do it. So
get them, ban them, and play them.
So it's not going to happen, but I have that temptation, just because at ATC they were both standing there and telling me how terrible Nightwings were, and they're bad, and don't bring Nightwings. Hemlocks are better. And I was like, bruh, 3 Nightwings or 2 Hemlocks.
3 is better than 2. That's mathematics.
It's basic math.
It's simple math. So, like, obviously I'm right, and I need to go prove it.
Yeah.
But I also would have to paint that army, learn how to play the army, and then have enough time to actually take it to an event before they get nerfed. So
That's tricky.
probably not happening, but I can at least, like, as we start to do battle reports, I'm hoping to have that army available for battle reports, if nothing else. So
Yeah, just to get some good variety, because there is a strong metal list that you should definitely be aware of.
exactly. So those are some of the options, and I actually was thinking about, like, even more, like, Dark Eldar version with a couple of the Razor Wings, or I don't know, pretty much anything except I don't have Genestealer Cult. Tyranids are bad, and I don't really like playing Imperium.
You know, guys, humor me here. All this talk about the 30-point list and all that, I really want to play Tyranids with Old One Eye. He's so spicy.
I think Tyranids have some options. I won't dive too deep because that's a whole episode on itself.
Let's do the next episode, Tyranids.
Next episode is Tyranids, maybe.
Just 100%, that's the title.
It'll come up. But
We'll do
I think it's got some
and-
play.
We'll do Tyranids and the other thing I just said we'll talk about that I already forgot. We'll do those two things.
Okay.
Yes, Eldar. But I think Tyranids need Genestealer Cult allies right now. And we'll see where they go in the future, but right now I think you just have to take in those Genestealer Cults.
And even then, I feel Tyranids don't feel like they have a place, because Genestealer Cult is really good in close combat. I would say they're better in close combat and in objective control than Tyranids, and they can ally with Astra Militarum, which is better at shooting than Tyranids. So Tyranids can't shoot, or
it's hard to define their
fight
role
as
right
well.
now, but they're better at getting that board control turn one.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
Yeah,
'cause
we
they don't
can
need
dive
to-
more into that one in a later episode, I think.
To just drop it, because I thought about it.
We're going to keep going with Tyranids, right?
What if we did a Tyranid list based on the same principle as the Slanesh
That's
list?
what I was thinking. So you just...
All monsters.
All monsters.
Well, maybe not that.
Oops, all monsters.
Oops, all Kraken monsters. Maybe
Yeah,
not.
we can write a list, but I think you're looking at Carnifexes at that point, because Tyranid monsters hit on 4s and have 3 attacks.
And also don't stack the negatives and
don't
don't
have
have
any
AP,
rolls.
and they're not really
You got
good
a
fighters.
Malanthrope just slowly going after them to get them to buy him
I like the hand action.
That's he's got little hands.
There we go, little tentacles. I like it. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it more.
All right, so I think we'll talk about that on the next episode, maybe. See if we can come up with a list, maybe see what lists do well this weekend, give us some more to talk about. And what do you think? Next week we're going to be talking about how to maximize close combat efficiency for a non-melee army.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
That was the thing that I said.
Yeah,
I'm glad you remembered
Oh,
that,
good,
guys.
That's what I'm here for, guys.
Also, a battle report at some point, right?
Yeah, let's hope so. So,
next week or two.
It's in the cards.
So we'll see when this gets released. I think we're going to be recording on Tuesdays, probably releasing on like Thursdays. We'll get a set date by the time you guys are watching this.
Yeah.
And I think maybe come back next week to say hi to the Florida Man podcast.
Yeah, that'll work.
All right. Well, if you have any feedback, please comment, message us. Comment on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think, positive, negative. Lay it all on us. We'd love to hear from you guys. We'd love to talk to you guys. Tell your friends and come give us a listen, give some feedback, and we'll see you guys in a week.
Yeah. See ya.
Here's the outro music.
I hope that's being cut.